Hey guys, Arm here. Today I'm coming with the Eminence and Shadow episode 3, where our protagonist Shadow will encounter a major accident that his companions all leave him. When he studies in the capital alone, he falls into a conspiracy where he is lured to become the princess's boyfriend but get framed for kidnapping the princess. So what is going on with Shadow? Who is the culprit? Let's reveal it in the video step by step. The story begins with Shadow on the train to the capital to study. His subordinates have left him for expanding their organization to fight against Diabolos, but Shadow thinks it may be their excuse to leave, since they've grown up to figure out the cult of Diabolos is made up and it's time to stop the childish game. But it doesn't affect Shadow that much. He comes to the capital of the kingdom alone and continues pretending to be ordinary. In his past life as an earthling, he didn't have superpowers. Now he gets to be reborn in this world with sword skills and magic. He will try his best to achieve the dream hidden in his heart, even just by himself. He wants to be the Eminence in Shadow, who can be low profile but has the power to control the whole world. Shadow's disguise is very successful. At the age of 15, he is promoted to the same Midgar Academy as his sister. Because of his mediocre performance, he is assigned to a rundown apartment far from the city center. To not be late, he has to catch the train to school every day. 7 months have passed since Shadow got into the academy, where he met 2 new friends. They made a bet on the school exam, and Shadow, who lost the game, is punished for confessing his love to Princess Alexia. Alexia is so popular at school that there are a lot of excellent boys confessing love to her but getting rejected every day. Shadow isn't worried about getting rejected at all. He will go confessing nervously with his body shivering, and cry loud after being rejected. That's how a typical background student will act like. To Shadow's surprise, Alexia turns out to accept his love, which also shocked his 2 friends who are hiding nearby. Therefore, Shadow, though wanting to keep low-key, suddenly becomes the most high-profile student in school. He draws everyone's attention and arises a discussion wherever he goes. The 2 students who encouraged Shadow to confess are now very regretful, as they always feel superior to Shadow and they believe they would succeed if it were them who approached Alexia. At this time, Alexia sits next to Shadow, bringing a lot of delicious food. Shadow wants Alexia to hate and break up with him, so he deliberately acts like a yokel, greedily grabbing the food. However, it doesn't alienate Alexia from Shadow. Instead, she proposes to have classes with him this afternoon. Because of Alexia's recommendation, Shadow is transferred from the low-level fencing class to the elite class, where the teacher, Xenon, is a royal fencing master, and every student works harder than those in the low-level classes. During the class, instead of chit-chat noise, there is only the sound of swords clashing with swords. Shadow is surprised to find when he practices with Alexia that they have similar fencing skills. They both focus on the base of the sword instead of fancy moves. Alexia has a genius sister Iris who masters fancy fencing skills, which leads to Alexia's rating being consistently inferior to Iris's. The conversation between Alexia and Xenon after class reveals their relationship, and it turns out that Xenon is Alexia's fiancé candidate. Alexia then tells Shadow about her plan. She accepted Shadow and became his girlfriend because she wanted to stop those suitors from harassing her. Also, Shadow seems to have mediocre qualifications and ordinary background, so she can be bossing him easily. The next 2 points Alexia mentions make Shadow unable to reject her. Firstly, she has known from the 2 students that Shadow's confessing to her was his punishment after losing the bet. If she exposes it, Shadow will be in trouble. Besides, Alexia is willing to hire Shadow with decent payment, while Shadow also wants to make money to start his organization. Therefore, he takes the job. The next few days, Alexia always holds Shadow wherever they go, but Xenon isn't jealous at all. Alexia acts more like a lady in public while showing her childish personality when she is with Shadow, complaining that Xenon hasn't given up on her. Therefore, Alexia starts hanging out around the city with Shadow, intending to be seen by more people to cause a greater impact on Xenon. Shadow can't figure out why Alexia doesn't accept Xenon, who is obviously excellent in every way. At this point, Alexia says the reason why she hates Xenon is that he is pretending to be perfect while everyone should have some flaws. One day after school, Alexia and Shadow break out into a heated argument. Alexia talks about the ordinary sword style that she and Shadow use, which she actually loathes very much. It isn't for her talent limitation. She wants to perform the magnificent genius sword art like her sister Iris. Shadow tries to enlighten Alexia that she should just be herself instead of caring too much about others' opinions, which provokes her. When she lost to her sister Iris, that's how Iris comforted her, but it hurt Alexia's self-esteem. Shadow tells Alexia that he cares about neither the genius swordplay nor the disaster causing heavy casualties that attracts public attention. He only cares about mastering the basics of the sword skills, while his subtext is that he pursues a low-profile but powerful life which is just like basic swordsmanship. Alexia obviously doesn't get it, and she was enraged by the argument, deciding to end the relationship with Shadow. Shadow is fine with it, but the 2 students are annoying. They keep throwing questions like if Shadow is sad or not, and what has he done with Alexia as her boyfriend. Just when they are walking to the gate, they are blocked by Xenon, whose words shock and frighten them. It turns out that Alexia hasn't been back to her dorm since yesterday, and Shadow has become a suspect in kidnapping her because they had been together yesterday. Shadow meekly kneels down, noticing that he and his 2 classmates have been surrounded by heavily armed soldiers, which brings the end of episode 3. I believe Shadow 7 are leading for expanding the organization. I can almost foresee when they reunite again, Shadow will become the monarch of a Shadow Empire before he can react to it. In addition, I highly suspect Xenon is one of the instructors of the conspiracy. As I mentioned before, the cult of Diabolos does exist, and Alexia also states there's no flawless person in this world. So Xenon, who seems to be perfect, was probably sent to be here undercover by Diabolos, and all his perfections are fake. Since Alexia had hired Shadow to be her boyfriend and stayed with him all day long, Xenon came up with the idea of kidnapping Alexia, making Shadow a scapegoat. But it's just my guess. What do you think? If you have different opinions, please comment below, and let's have a discussion on the truth about the disappearance of Alexia. Well, that's all for today's video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and see you in my next video.
And I'm pretty sure that you are